Now on to the second day in Dalian at the World Economic Forum's summer gathering that brought an anxious mood about the global economy. The forum's own outlook shows nearly 9 in 10 out of its chief economists now expect global growth to weaken further, with almost all predicting inflation climbing. The trigger is the Strait of Hormuz, with shipping and energy flows still disrupted by the West Asia conflict. Panelists were wargaming a scenario where geopolitics, not central banks, set the price of food and oil. 84% of forum economists expect higher food prices in China, specifically because of the Iran war. They also acknowledge the figure could actually be lower than equivalent projections for the US, Africa and Europe. China sat at the center of almost every conversation, but not comfortably. At Dalian, Professor Huang Yiping, Dean of the National School of Development at Peking University, he addressed critical global trade imbalances. As a prominent economist and member of the People's Bank of China's Monetary Policy Committee, his insights focused heavily on structural reforms. He pushed back hard on Washington's overcapacity narrative, arguing that US complaints about Chinese exports hurting manufacturing jobs ignores Washington's own deeper failures in adapting to globalization. He added that Beijing's current account surplus has narrowed from nearly 10% of GDP in 2007 to roughly 3.7% now, but said far more aggressive steps are needed to lift weak domestic consumption. That's the paradox running through Dalian, that China is being asked to consume more and export less, even as its 15th five-year plan doubles down on manufacturing dominance in EVs, batteries and clean tech. Wang said that is the same machine fueling the resisting autarky debate on whether Western reshoring is fragmenting global finance into rival blocs. Bangladesh Prime Minister Tariq Rahman's presence at the session titled Innovating at Scale signaled something too. Rahman highlighted Bangladesh's target to fulfill 20% of its total electricity demand from renewable sources by 2030, though through proactive solar energy tax benefits. The message from Dalian is that emerging economies are positioning themselves as swing states in this fracturing order. The other broad signal from Dalian is that nobody is calling the Hormuz hit a crisis yet, but the language, such as out of balance, highly complex, duration and scale, is the exact language that markets use before they start pricing in a crisis. Our correspondent Dharamjot Kaur has sent us this report from Dalian in China. Take a look at the latest updates.
There is a shadow that has been cast over discussions and statements coming out of summer Davos event unfolding here in Dalian in China. Much like the gloomy weather here, there are conversations and statements which have predicted, especially those made by WEF economists, which talk about how growth will be slowing down. And this, of course, rolls back to the West Asia crisis that has been unfolding for the past few months, especially the conflict over the Strait of Hormuz. Now, there will be millions and billions of people, in fact, across the world who will be infected by it in terms of inflated cost of living and higher prices for basic goods. Another aspect that also emerged from the second day here at Summer Davos was a bit of a wedge between US and China in terms of the differing statements that came out. Of course, the entire rhetoric that has been pursued by US President Donald Trump with respect to whether or not there is a deal with Iran and what the fine print of those details are, all of those things have created a level of uncertainty that has clouded several discussions at Summer Davos, an event which usually looks at the future and the long-term vision. A vision, of course, now that has been fractured because of all the uncertainty that has been unfolding geopolitically. Where do governments and institutions go from here in terms of policy reform? And this, of course, becomes now an inflection point. Here in Dalian with video journalist Joy, this is Dharamjot Kaur for WION World is One.